Shalom, people. This is Brother Lyles coming at you with another video, and I'm gonna get this video out if it's the last thing I do. The devil doesn't like it when his people or his power structures are being assaulted, because he's always going around seeking whom he may devour. So that as we now are seeing throughout the world, that just like I stated a few videos ago about the bringing down of Roe versus Wade, how I was stating that the Most High is starting to show his power throughout all the earth by bringing down some of these people's ideologies, bringing down some of their power structures, bringing down some of their idols, which is peoples and also can be certain locations. So we continue to see the Most High continue to escalate that in the things that we have just seen here in the last 2 weeks, starting with the destruction of the Georgia Guidestones. The Georgia Guidestones have been in existence, they say, since the late 70s, and have been what some called the New World Order's 10 Commandments. This was put up by a group of elitists. They say they don't know who did it, in this place called Elberton, Georgia, about 90 miles outside of Atlanta. Now, I'll tell you who I think, if not totally funded the construction of this monolith, but at least had a driving force. I think it was Ted Turner. Ted Turner, who started a TBN, Turner Broadcasting Network, which morphed into CNN and HNL News, along with his wife, Jane Fonda, who was a well-known environmentalist and globalist, and who also, he was very concerned with the world population. He was a rich Southern Democrat. I would still say Dixiecrat, because I'm sure that the money that he got to start the journalistic broadcasting empire that he founded came probably from slavery. But he's turning over a new leaf, and now he's concerned about the environment, and he's concerned about people. So I believe that he, along with some others, erected these wicked stone monument, marble monument in Elberton, Georgia, to show what they wanted the world to look like. And one of the key things that people always keyed in on the Georgia Guidestones is that the globalists wanted the world's population to remain at 500 million people, down from the 8 billion that we see today, right? How many people would have to die? And that they have actively, through Roe versus Wade, through man-made famines, messing with the weather patterns and different things, causing economic upheaval and war in other countries, have brought down the populations of some nations, not effectively as they have wanted to, because they wanted to keep the world population at 500 million, but that they were actively every year, every day, thinking of ways, how can we steal, kill, and destroy to get the principles of these wicked Georgia Guidestones brought into existence. And that with the destruction of these wicked this wicked monolith this week, that this was a bringing down of definitely of a principality. Whether or not a man did it, I believe it was definitely probably a man that went up there and put some dynamite or C4 or whatever and blasted one of those pillars off and therefore damaged the whole thing where they had brought it down. Be that as it may, I believe it was the hand of the Most High showing us once again that he still rules in heaven above and earth below. And that this was definitely a blow against them, and in the fact that they say, okay, we're starting CERN up, and we doing all this, and how so many, and I'm included in this, and I had to ask the Most High forgive me, but how we look at these things, say, oh, they starting CERN up, and they getting ready to do this, and they getting ready to do that, they getting ready to create all these storms. I, in my spirit, now believe that the Most High is starting to do certain things is going to let us know that this is the divine hand from him. It cannot be nothing else, because why would the elite want to destroy their own 10 commandments? It was the Most High was doing that, and this is a bringing down of a principality, because you can bet you believe that it was a principality behind that monolith. That for, and it's not that these things have not been defaced before. There have been times where people have came up and wrote NWO on it and all these things, and they went back and cleared it. But this is the very first time that I can remember that they were actually tampered with. And the thing about it is, they're out and open for anybody to come up to see, right? And so the fact that in this man's mind, or whoever, or men, or whoever it was, would come up in there after such a long period of time. I think they said they have been in existence for about 40 years, that it would get into these people's mind to go up there and destroy them, or at least to attempt, because they didn't destroy the whole thing, but they destroyed enough of the monolith that they had to bring in some construction equipment and just knock the rest of them down. Now, whether or not they put them back up or not, that remains to be seen. But even if they do, the power of that principality that was behind that monolith, it'll never be the same. It'll never be the same. It's just like the Parthenon in Greece, or when all these different things came coming down from the spreading of the message that Yeshua and his followers had put out into the Greek and Roman world at that time. And you can see in the book of Acts where the people was getting upset because they said that in the book of Acts where he said that, hey, these people are not buying our little copper statuettes of Artemis or Diana. That's the Roman, I guess the Greek name for the female god. They said they're not buying them no more. Therefore, our trade is going to be messed up. And that these temples and different things that they had started to come down, right? So that we see this same parallel with this bringing down of this monolith, that definitely this is the Most High showing that he has power in the earth to still reach out and bring down these principalities, even if they're saying that, oh, CERN is starting and they're going to bring forth more of these fallen angels into the world. But the Most High said, see how easily I'm going to bring these different principalities and powers and stuff that you people are freaking out on over here. I can do this just like that. Not only that, the Most High continued on showing his great power when we seen Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of England, resigning. Not only him resigning, but a lot of the MPs in his party resigning. Now, if you know anything about Boris Johnson was the one that started to accelerate this Brexit thing, where they were saying there was too many immigrants coming in to England, and therefore they were shutting off people being able to come into England. And plus they was going through, immigration was going through England, and all the people that was there illegally that might have been there for years, they was putting them out. Then they dealt wrongfully with the Wimbush generation, the ones that they had asked to come there to England after World War II to rebuild it, but then they connived and deceived them in the early 70s by not giving them the citizenship papers and different things, or at least telling them file for the citizenship papers, so that years later, when some of these people who had worked in government, who worked in different parts even of the British government, coming into retirement age here, they're coming and saying, hey, you here illegally. We don't see no papers on you. Even though they said we was part of the people that rebuilt England, they were still yet putting these people out. This was all under Boris Johnson's party rule over England, and then him being the prime minister of it. Also the fact that when he came in, him and Donald Trump were pretty much, going head to head on how many immigrants they could put out of their nations who were contributing to the nation. Now, I'm not here to debate whether illegal immigration is good or bad. It does have a negative effect to us as black people here in America. You understand? And the immigrants certainly don't need us to get behind them and crying out what they believe is a justifiable subject or whatever. But the fact that you would just treat humanity the way that you did, like Trump did, some of them people putting them in cages and separating their families, or even the Brexit thing, how they was treating those people and different things, right? In fact, to the detriment now, they say, of the British trucking company, because a lot of the truckers and different things that were seasonal truckers were people coming from other nations that didn't necessarily have proper immigration documentation. You understand? So this was all under Boris Johnson, and for him to resign reluctantly, he didn't do it because he wanted to, he had to. There was a principality behind this man and behind his power, and by the Most High let him. Now, of course, he has a few months before they find a replacement, and he could try to trump up something to make it where he had to stay. But just the fact that he resigned again under the scandal of all the stuff that happened, while he was in, even if he come back, he will never be the same. That principality behind him is weak, is weakened. Then, within a very short span of time, here we have another principality that came down. We had the principality over there in Japan, this former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, right? The one that they said he was trying to bring Japan back to a war footing like what it had before the end of World War II. We know when they got defeated by America and they basically had to become a pacifist nation, that he was trying to redo their constitution and take all that pacifist stuff off and say, hey, we want to be able to be once again a leader in the great armies of the world like we was during World War II. That him and Donald Trump again were great friends, and that he was one that was always, he's the longest running prime minister they ever had. He was yet one that said he wanted to be able to stand toe to toe with North Korea in order to combat what the North Koreans were doing in certain parts of Japan, where they was coming in and kidnapping people and taking different fishing waters from Japan. But yet, because Japan had this pacifist stance in their constitution, he said, no, I want to be a war nation again. That as he was campaigning for somebody in his party, man came up with a homemade weapon and shot him near the neck, near the heart, between the neck and the heart or whatever. It put 2 holes in there, and they said about time they got to the hospital, he had bled out in that short period of time. But that this is another the principality that was behind this man. Now that he's gone, he has to find somewhere else. That this is the stroke of the Most High. Again, I'm telling you, moving throughout the earth, showing his people that he is still ruler. That as we continue to pray, that prayer that Yeshua told his disciples, he said, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. that we will continue to pray that prayer, that the will of the Father, the will of the kingdom would be done in this earth, and that the coming of our King Yeshua would manifest in him coming back, putting down the armies of this world. But that we don't have to wait necessarily for Yeshua in strategic areas to come back, to start seeing some of these principalities being brought down. We can see a victory today. We can see victory today in certain different things, like even with the Roe v. Wade thing coming down. We understand that Biden them came back and signed something that said they're going to protect the reproductive rights of women or whatever it is like that. But even with that, it is a deadening thing, and that I believe, like I said, in my estimation, that there's going to come a time that the final death knell to the left and the right here in America is going to come. That you can see it. You can see it on the horizon with these certain things coming. That anything that America hand is touched to, you can see it coming down. And that I think the final iteration of that is going to be the destruction of this nation. Whether or not our people are still here to see that destruction, I don't know. But we certainly believe that the prayers for Babylon to be destroyed are getting closer and closer and closer as we see these different principalities, these different things start coming down. We know that the coming back of our dear Savior, our King, is near. As this is sort of like the advanced scouts coming, and we're seeing the power and the presence being demonstrated across the world. We should look up, because our redemption is closer than when we first believed. So with that, I want to just continue to ask you to pray for our people worldwide. Pray that the Most High will give us direction and what He wants us to do. Do we need to be here? Do we need to go somewhere else? I don't know, because we know that Babylon is worldwide, right? So if it be that the Most High wants us to be here, and it is while the destruction of this place is going, certainly He can. Certainly we can remember what He did with Lot, where He pulled Lot out just as He was getting ready to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. I believe that He can do it. So with that, I'm going to ask you to give this video a thumbs up. I'm going to ask you to subscribe. I'm going to ask you to leave a comment, and I'm going to ask you to share. Be blessed.